is the Aqua Sensory Podcast. I'm your host, Jo Wilson. In this show, you will learn all about sensory harmony in water for babies and the early years. Because when we grow to love, connect, and respect water, learning follows naturally. Hello, how are you doing? I am so excited today to have Clare Stead, who has created the most amazing child development app. I'm so excited to share this because I have actually been really using it over the last few months for my own research, but also sharing it with all of my swim families and everybody who I come across. So I'm really, really delighted today to talk and chat all things child development, and particularly the first 1,000 days. So a warm welcome, Clare.
Thank you so much for having me, and hi everybody. It's just lovely to be with you all, and I'm very grateful for you to ask me to join you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So Oliiki, what is the story behind it? Because it is really interesting, the name, what it stands for. Let's let everybody know.
Well, Oliiki stands for, should I let you into a secret? The original idea was I wanted to have a name for my brand that was round and cute and lovely and had a nice logo, and the logo was the name and all the rest of it. And then I came across the word Oliiki without two I's, and it meant olive in Estonian. So I stuck another I in and it meant nothing. And I thought, oh, that looks cute. That's great. I can do something with that. And I made the logo and it was fine. But then everybody kept saying to me, what does it mean? So then I had to sort of think, well, what does it mean? What does Oliiki stand for? What does it actually mean? And then I decided that Oliiki actually means observe closely, listen to what your baby's saying, investigate their interest, initiate conversation, Kindle connection, and instill a love of learning, which is exactly what Oliiki does, sort of what it does on the tin sort of thing.
Oh, wow, that is amazing, because the first 1,000 days, not many people might have heard about why it's so important, because we're quite focused, don't we, when it's the early years. We know about 0 to 7, 0 to 5, or even 0 to 3, but why are the first 1,000 days so important for us to really get behind and to share and educate our parents and everybody, really? So,
well, the brain is developing in the first 1,000 days like at no other time in life, and it is literally being built from the moment of conception onwards. And our children's outcomes are all outcomes of the brain. So when they run, jump, skip, hop, swim, that's actually functions of the brain connecting together to make those things happen. So baby brain building is something that we don't think about, but actually is fundamentally important to the outcomes for life. And the time from conception to 2 is the time when the brain is developing it like no other time in life. By the time your baby's born, they have all the neurons, that brain cells that they will ever have, but the connections need to be connected together. And we do that through the experiences that we give our babies. And we know that this time is the foundational period for everything in life. And during the first 1,000 days, at times, more than 1 million synapse connections, the connections between the neurons, 1 million synapse connections a second are being created. And so babies grow and their brains mature and develop and get smarter and bigger and better and brighter through the experiences that we give them. And the more we use those synapses that are being connected, the bigger the connections, the better the connections, the brighter our children will be. Particularly during this period of time, the brain keeps developing till they're 25, but during this period of time is when the brain is building itself. And later what happens is the connections get made, and then if they're not used, they prune away, and that's part of the process. But the more they're used, the stronger they get, the better the communication is between the connections, and the brighter our children will be. So it's a really important period of time, and actually not a lot of parents know that what they do with their baby during that period of time will literally transform their child's outcomes.
Wow, that is so wonderful. And I mean, it's almost like a sensitive period, isn't it? Capturing that sensitive period and almost giving them all the nutrients, because we often, think about the really important things, don't we, for parents, obviously feeding, sleeping. But as you say, those meaningful little moments that are absolutely so important, brain food, aren't they?
Absolutely. And what's amazing is just some of the facts that people don't tend to know about this period of time. For example, although what happens later matters, what this one blew my mind, is that a child's development at 22 months old predicts their academic outcomes at 26 years.
Wow.
It's huge what happens in this first period of life. And there's a massive load of research going on. And this is quite new research. It's only 20 years old, 23 years old now. It's from the brain scientists. And then it takes, it's clever research of brain scientists. And then it's got to be translated into human speak for you and me, because they're cleverer than I am, and we then have to translate that down again to get it out to parents who don't necessarily specialize in this sort of area. So what we're finding is that the research is showing that the way parents interact, the things that they do with their babies on a daily basis, literally builds their baby's brain, and that the first 1,000 days impacts on every single aspect of life, from their academic outcomes, their physical, their mental health, their social and emotional development, who they're going to marry, how much they'll earn, their relationships, their concentration, their focus, their creativity, their resilience. All of those things are founded in the first 1,000 days, even down to our cancer markers and our health, and all those things all are rooted in this first 1,000 days. So getting this period of time right, not to stress parents, but to say it's really, really important. But it doesn't have to be hard, and that's the key message. That although what happens for our babies is they learn from the simple to the complex, and what might be very simple to you is not simple to your baby. So things like your water play, spending time in the bath, dribbling that water on the baby, that to you might be a nothing. You didn't even know you were doing an activity, but to your baby, that is literally brain building. It is giving them the sensory connections in their hearing. New research has come out that shows when babies move their eyes to watch the water moving, their ears also move, their eardrums also move.
Wow.
And so what they know now is they're connected, but they're not sure yet where in the brain that connection is taking place. And we have, so the sensory connection is all there. Their hearing, their vision is all being excited by that tiny act of drawing the water up and pouring it on the baby. But they're also feeling the movement of the water on their bodies. All the little nerve endings on their skin are being activated. And if you give them a little startle, they're tensing their tummy muscles, and they're getting to know where they are in shape in space. There's so much going on in these tiny activities that seem simple but are the foundation for more complex things. And Harvard Center on the Developing Child like to talk about, which is where the brain science originated from in 2000, from neighborhoods to nurture neurons was the paper. What they talk about is building the foundations of a building, and then because the foundations
like a
of
house, isn't it? They talk about a house all the time. Yeah.
Sorry, Harvard, I don't want to talk about a house. I want to
I like that's okay.
As I obviously know more than they do. No, I like to talk about it as a pyramid.
Okay.
And the reason for talking about it as a pyramid is that a pyramid is working towards the finished something. That top brick is being supported by all the other bricks coming down. And that what you need for a really good pyramid is a really wide, broad base. And everything needs to be around about the same sort of height, so that each brick is the foundation of the next bit of the building. And so what we can sometimes have is a parent who says, oh, my child can count to 1,000, or they kick a football and they're amazing at kicking a football. But what's happened when that happens is that they don't necessarily have the understanding of the thousandness of a thousand, and they might have had loads of experience of kicking a football, but to the expense of other things.
Yeah.
So what I'm looking for is this nice broad breadth of experience where we give our children the opportunity to experience loads and loads of different things often, and each of those will help them build a tiny skill, and that skill then gets built on by the next experience of that same thing, so that we don't have walls that have gaps in. Because just like when we're building a house or building a pyramid, if we've got gaps in the walls going up, then it's a wobbly building. And what we want in our learning is a really strong, firm foundation that we can build our rest of our learning on, so that it supports that pinnacle of whatever it might be. I suppose that might be, I don't know, the last day of life, but you know, what's the finished person look like? I don't. But
well, it's us thriving, really, isn't it? That's what we all want from our children, to thrive, don't we? To reach their, well, a lot of people say, we just say reach their full potential, don't we? That could be the highest point, couldn't it?
Absolutely. And what we know is that babies' brains are built on relationships and on experiences and our interactions as parents, and we're their first teachers, and that it starts before birth.
Wow.
So we don't have to wait until our babies are here. The earlier we start, the bigger and better our babies' brains are going to be, but also the better the environment in which they are being nurtured and cared for, because that environment makes a massive difference to who they become.
Oh, I love that. And I love, as you say, coming up with an analogy, almost like a visualization of a pyramid, because then that really, really helps. And I think keeping it simple, isn't it? That's what parents need. I often talk about a tree and the roots, they're underground, and it's sometimes just because we can't see it. That's where actually all the goodness, all the foundations, and then we're actually growing that big trunk. And that's like the highest skills of what we bloom at the top. So as you say, I love things where parents can really visualize and understand. And I must say, that's one of the things I love about your app, because it must have taken ages to build and there's so much information there, but it's actually put across really simply for parents to understand, and people like me. I love the way that it's written, and then it's always pinpointed to that lovely science as well. So if we would like to find out why, we can go and explore more as well. There's lots of different activities and all sorts, isn't there?
Absolutely. It's a program that's very nice of you to say thank you. I've tried really hard to keep it simple. Deliver information simply, because let's face it, we're all shattered, aren't we, when we got our new babies. And like I say, the simple for the baby isn't necessarily as simple as it looks, because there's so much going on for our babies. And when I built the Oliiki app, I built it from my experience as a mum and my experience as a teacher and an education researcher. And for me, I really wanted to be doing things for my baby. From the minute I was pregnant, I thought I was really special, and no one else really cared, and nobody gave me anything to do. And I wanted a program of development for my baby. And so that's exactly what the Oliiki app is. It's a tiny activity every single day to either develop me and my partner, or my baby, and to understand what my baby's gaining from that activity. Because I was looking today, my activity for my baby on my app, because it's an activity a day for 1,000 days. So from the first day of conception right up until 2. And so today, my baby is obviously an older baby at the moment. It changes quite regularly, my baby. And at the moment, it's a toddler. And it's being encouraged to climb upstairs. That's the activity. Now, as a parent, you probably wouldn't even think that was an activity, but when we start unpicking it, we see that it's a massively complex skill set to do, but it's also the foundation of so much learning that comes on later. So, you know, they're climbing up the stairs, they're building leg muscles, arm muscles, they're strengthening themselves, their balance, their coordination, they're boosting their spatial awareness. It helps them build focus and concentration and a sense of accomplishment to get to the top or the next step. It helps them see understand their sense of risk at the time. And it's the beginning of writing, believe it or not, because without strong muscles, you can't sit up straight, and therefore you can't see the page properly, and you need to be able to use both eyes to be able to write effectively and hold your head up straight. And it also requires you to do something called crossing the midline. I'm sure you talk about this lots in your classes.
We do.
And that's encouraging the connection of the brain sides, both sides. And it's helping develop the dominant hand. And it's also helping to develop those motor skills. And so ultimately what it's doing is helping your child become a writer and a reader and a thinker. And if we don't cross the midline, we end up with behavior problems. We end up with not being confident at using our pencil. So then children avoid writing and use all the tactics to avoid writing, and they become, if they haven't had this experience of physical development, of coordinating the brains in different ways, they might be less confident physically. So these tiny activities, like climbing the stairs, don't look like activities, but ultimately for your baby, they're enormous. And what you do with the Oliiki app is that you get this activity every single day. And what's great is that you can age adjust. So if you've got preemie babies or special needs babies, you just change their birth date, like I do, because my baby changes birth date regularly in the back end, and then you get given the activities that are appropriate for your baby. So if they're finding it too hard, you just you take them back a few weeks, and you'll find that it's the right sort of age and stage for your baby. Just one activity a day, so that you're not having to try and fit in 8. It's just a library of tiny little activities that's going to support you in your journey to parenting, so that you feel really confident that you're doing the right thing for your baby.
Because
no,
that's nice.
One of the things that's really important is when we develop parents' confidence, we know that, and we couple that with an understanding of child development. We know that we get much better outcomes for our babies. We prevent postnatal depression. We prevent infant mental health issues, which is social emotional development. We get much better home learning environments. And when we get these great home learning environments, we get great outcomes when kids go to school. So they might look like tiny things, but actually they're huge to your.
Yeah, I love that, because I'm often asked the same question. Why Aquasensory? Why have you created a child development program in water? And that is exactly what I say to my swim families. Well, let's not fix all the problems later on. Let's look at everything, doing all the right ingredients, as you say, all the meaningful activities, sensory discovery, play, talking, reading, being really present with your baby, because it doesn't have to be overcomplicated, does it? And actually giving them exactly what the brain needs, and then providing that right environment, because then later on, why leave it to when they get to school, when they really desperately need help? Why actually give it all the right things? And knowing that you're doing the right things must be so reassuring as a parent. And that's why I love creating a child development program for the water, and really sharing with our parents it doesn't need to be overcomplicated. It is just the small things that we need to be doing more of, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is little and often. It is about those tiny things every single day. And it's also celebrating your wins as a parent, because when you celebrate your wins and you get your invisible crown and you sort of straighten it up and you're really proud that you cleaned your teeth, your brain doesn't know that it's just you cleaned your teeth. Your brain thinks, oh yeah, I am fantastic. And then what happens is you project a different outlook to your child, and your interactions are better, because when we feel proud of ourselves, it's natural. We want to talk more. When we're feeling low and a bit fed up and a bit lost and a bit like, this is jolly hard work and I'm really tired, actually we're not really interacting in the same way. So celebrating your tiny wins can be game changing for you and your baby. Absolutely.
It's those positive layers, isn't it? It's subtle, really, really simple. And yeah, I don't know if you feel the same. I do think it can be really overwhelming. So much information out there for new parents, really overwhelming. Where do I start? And sometimes to look at products or things as shortcuts. I know that, you know, there's sometimes so many different things that you can buy for your baby, isn't there? Absolutely. Bouncers and jingle jungers and jumperoos and all the different things. But actually, let's strip it back to the basics. And I think having an app which is so reassuring, as you say, you can tick off and go, oh, I've done this today. And oh, that's really simple.
Amazing. Well, and the other thing is that it isn't about how much money you can spend, although the marketers will tell you it's about how much money you can spend. That doesn't make your baby bright. It doesn't make your baby reach their full potential. In fact, quite often, a lot of the things that you can buy for your baby is actually going to prevent them from developing, because they're being containerized and they're being kept in boxes and various different things. They're not being given the imagination and space to grow and capabilities. And so one of the things I made sure with the Oliiki app was that it didn't need specialist equipment, that it was using things from in and around the home and nature, and it didn't take a load of setting up, because I saw on Instagram a while ago, in fact I wrote a blog about it, I went on a real rant because it was somebody had done a great activity for your toddler today, and all you had to do was you had to dye some rice yellow, you had to make some blue jelly and pop that in the freezer, and then you just got the starfish out of the drawer that you had in your kitchen, and you put the starfish around the outside, and you made a seascape, and then you gave that to your baby to play with. Well, there's no playing left to do. You've done the play. And first of all, you stressed over the fact that you didn't have blue jelly. You've had to dye the wretched yellow dye rice, and the dye's gone everywhere all over the kitchen. You know what's happened. You did it when the baby was asleep. They wake up, you're covered in dye. You know, it's all gone wrong. And then you look in the drawer and there's no starfish. I mean,
I know sometimes we can overcomplicate it, really, absolutely, can't we?
Keeping it simple makes all the difference.
Definitely. And I love the fact that there are snippets of water in there. So you've got bath time play, and you've got some splashy play as well, which is really, really nice. Because when we're looking at the water in the most simple things, I always just go around the senses, and I think there's a sensory 5, you know, skin to skin, movement, touch and voice. Talking, again, it doesn't have to be difficult, but if I was going to point you down to anything on the app, have you got anything that's a bit of a favorite and you've had some feedback from parents and babies as well?
Oh, favorites. I don't know. I think probably my favorite would be, having just talked about jelly, would be things like the squishy sort of the textural things. But I'm very fond of water for babies. I think it's an incredibly powerful tool, and actually there's one activity on there where they're young, they're very newborn, or not newborn, but able to go in the water, and it's just running the sink full of water, and just nurturing them in the water with love and connection, which then, of course, as they're toddlers, is them in the sink with the water running, and them splashing with the water and pouring, and I mean, just the action of pouring. That's developmentally so complex, because if you get, like, I've got my cup of tea here, and if you look what I have to do in order to hold that, I mean, the strength that's requiring in my arm and my hand, and then I have to, in order to pour, I have to manipulate my arm, and I'm not going to pour because it is a full cup. But I've got a jug here that's less full. But if I have to then pour the jug, the manipulation that's taking place, and then I'm going to move my wrist. Now, if you think about that as a writer later on, that is incredibly important, that I've developed all of those muscles just from a pouring activity. Another really complex one that doesn't look at all complex is getting clothes pegs and pinning those on the outside of a watering can in the garden. But it could be a bucket, or it could be anything. But actually, for a toddler, that is incredibly difficult, and they don't have the strength initially to be able to press the pegs. But it only comes with experience. And I've seen so many children arrive in school without that strength of hand.
Mm,
So then when it comes to writing, you have all the behavior issues, not because they can't write,
mm,
because they don't have the physical strength, because they haven't had the experience to experience those
mm.
the chance to develop their
Yeah,
muscles.
yeah.
And things like taking the time. I'll tell you another lovely one
Mm,
is, as a pregnant person, going out to find a place to watch the world go by.
mm,
And the War Memorial in your local village or
mm.
town is a really great place, because there's usually a place to sit. So when
Yeah,
you're heavily pregnant, you can walk from hopefully you can walk from home to the War Memorial and back again. And with a toddler, it's a great outing, because there's usually some hedging around it so that it's sort
yeah,
of contained. And you can watch the cars go by, you
yeah.
can chat about life, you might even see someone on a day when, you know, it's been quite a long toddler kind of a day. But finding those things is really useful,
Yeah.
and you won't do them if somebody doesn't say to do them.
And
You
I
know,
love that, because as you say, just that simple pouring. What I was thinking is that, you know, a lot of the time parents might think, oh, well, my toddler's using their hands. Maybe they've got something and they're just maybe just swiping with one finger. Well, that isn't making those really important connections, as you say. They're just grasping. They aren't actually manipulating. And as you say, having that lovely pincer grip with a peg. A lot of the time, you know, we do live in a bit of a screen world, don't we? They might think that
yeah,
they're using their fingers, but as you say, what you've done, and we agreed, and what we do in the pool is create really meaningful, where we're really separating its sensory integration, reflex integration, all of those, as you say, that lovely brain science. So it might look simple, but actually for the brain, it's actually really complicated, isn't it, to go from that hand and eye to this. It's so important for
absolutely.
writing.
Absolutely. And I think you made a really valid point there. I have often have parents say to me, oh, I don't want to use an app. I'm not going to use the phone around my child. Well,
Mm,
good on you. I'm really impressed. And
mm,
but the exact point of the Oliiki app is to read what's on your phone and put it down,
yeah,
and be present in the space with your child. And the other thing is to take the dummy out, turn the TV off and the radio off, because your child can't communicate with you if the dummy's in the mouth, and they can't hear the sound of the language if you've got noise in the background all the time. But it's also incredibly distracting having noise in the background or the telly on. I've got a brilliant piece of footage of a toddler who's doing a game, and it's one of the this is a really fun one, where she's got like little round stickers from Smith's or something, and mummy puts the sticker on her finger, and then she's picking it off and she puts it on her page. She's really focused, and then something happens on telly and she's completely lost it. She can't come back to it. So
mm.
making the environment an environment where focus can happen makes things richer as well.
Oh, that's really nice. As you say, those everyday experiences. So I'm going to keep sharing and letting all my swim families and all the educators know that how valuable it is when we are dealing with babies, and as you say, conception as well. Let's not forget that they're all important. 1,000 days for brain boosting to keep getting there out there. I love, and in actual fact, for the aquasensory program, I think we were chatting as well. I said before we met, oh, I'm so excited because we actually have an activity that we call brain boosters. We love to let our swim families know how important it is, all the things that we do in the pool and what it's doing. So it's, for me, it's an affirmation and just a real delight to have something that is just so beautifully written and so simple as well.
Thank
Have you got
you.
anything exciting planned? Anything for the future that you want to let everybody know, and
Oh, well,
how
yes.
we
So,
can find out about all your good work?
obviously I'm all over the socials.
Mm.
And so if people have got nurseries, I'm working a lot with nurseries right now, so it might be worth telling your nursery and spreading the word that way. Obviously I'm in the app stores for parents as well. I'm supporting people like you, Jo,
Mm.
and helping bring more value to classes so that parents get to know more stuff about baby brain building. And then I have got a membership that I'm about to open up, and if people would like more information about that, that's going to be a space where people like Joe will come and give amazing detailed information for deeper learning for parents and professionals in all subjects of child development and parenting. And then finally, I'm about to start running some workshops and challenges for parents on a monthly basis. So if people would be interested in those, just follow me on socials, DM me, let me know what you would like to know more about, because obviously the brain covers everything, so we can get the specialists in if we need to, or I will deliver where I can the information about learning and development and how you as a parent can support your baby to brilliance really in the first 1,000 days, and you can feel utterly confident that you're doing the right thing in order to be able to make your baby reach their full potential, which is after all what we all want for our child, to let them thrive.
Definitely, it's that reassurance. Oh my God, you have got so much planned. I'm going to pop all the links below so people can find you and explore and discover all your goodies as well. But yes, I am so following, and we really need to let everybody know it's the everyday activities that brain boost. And of course, water is so, so special. Thank you for listening to the Aqua Sensory Way. It's so nice to have you here tuning in today. Let's connect again soon. I'd love you to find out more about creating sensory harmony in water. Come and join us on our socials and in our community Facebook group, Aqua Sensory Connections.